Hello and welcome to the 11th game in the AI AutoPlay Season 1. I will make some commentaries during this video, feel free to mute the sound if you like. Also pause the video if you find interesting things you don't want to miss. There will be some information given on screen as well. When it comes to the warring part, the first leader to declare war was Catherine of Russia. She declared on Roosevelt in 2475 BC. Peace was not agreed upon until 625, that is AD 625, which is 3100 years later. Maybe the focus on the war was too much for her to cope with, for she disappeared by getting herself eliminated from the game in 820. She was the second leader to go, as her war victim, Roosevelt of the Americans, got eliminated in 640, just 15 years after the peace with Catherine got signed. The other leaders that did not survive until the end were Mansa Musa, he got eliminated in 1150 AD, Victoria 1365, Peter 1680 and Sitting Bull 1794. A little fun fact is also that this game saw the arguably shortest war possible in Civilization 4. In 1365, when one turn is 5 years on epic speed, Churchill declared on Victoria and captured her last city, which was Norwich at the time. That was the end of Victoria, and thus the war Churchill had started the very same turn ended with the death of his target, a 0 years war in other words. One can argue that it lasted a fraction of a turn, which is between 0 days and 5 years, as 5 years is 365 times 5 plus 1 days, which is 1826 days, barring the fact that it could have been 2 leap years instead of 1 in a given 5-year period, which would give 1827 days. But let's not go there. One can argue that the time it took Churchill was roughly 6 months. This calculates from the fact that there were 10 leaders left in the game. Mansa, Musa, Catherine and Roosevelt were already eliminated. Since the game is sequential, Churchill then has 1/10 of the turn to his disposal, so 1826 gives 182.6 days, which is approximately 6 months. For a war to be shorter, it needs either to have more leaders alive or to be later, when one turn is less than 5 years, with the same, or at least enough, number of leaders alive that the time allowed each leader is short enough to be considered less than 6 months. But this, of course, only holds true if Churchill's first action was to declare war and his last action on his turn was to capture Norwich. If he did other things either before the declaration or after the capture of Norwich, one can argue, and I will, that it took him less than 6 months. But let's stop splitting hairs right now and go on with the game, shall we? As for the winner, Justinian I ended up winning a space race victory in 1826. However, he was not the first one to finish the Apollo program. Neither was he first to build a spaceship part. It was Churchill who got the Apollo program first in 1465. Yes, you heard correctly, a 15th century Apollo program. Justinian barely got his program in the same century. He did it in 1490. The 16th century saw no spaceship parts constructed at all. In the 17th century, Churchill managed to build 5 SS thrusters and 1 SS life support between 1645 and 1695. Justinian didn't build any parts in the 17th century. So what happened in 1695? Well, as always, earthly matters were too important to ignore for Churchill. In other words, war. Justinian made his declaration of war against his space race rival in 1695. The two leaders were at war for the rest of the game, with the exception of a brief peace treaty lasting between 1724 and 1758. So while Churchill lost cities, Justinian both gained cities and built spaceship parts. Justinian finished his only SS engine in 1790 and reached Alpha Centauri to make an interstellar Byzantine colony in AD 1826 by the Earth's calendar. And to be complete about the space race history of the AI AutoPlay, Game 11, Gilgamesh 1730 and Stalin 1784 also finished their Apollo programs but didn't build any parts. Let us end this by take a short look at the final map, and I will just say thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Farewell.